Now, what is happening in your body during zone 2 training? It's all about the mitochondria. So mitochondria, the little powerhouses in your cells, if you will, that produce energy. When you spend time training in zone 2, you're stimulating mitochondria biogenesis. You're literally growing more mitochondria and making them more efficient. Why does that matter, you might ask? Because welcome to Stronger Weekly, brought to you by Purist Nutrition. We are mid-January now, and if you are one of those people who set a New Year's resolution to get healthier, first of all, good for you, seriously. But we know that statistically speaking, about 80% of people fall out by now. And I think it's even higher when we get to February. People are abandoning their New Year's resolutions. There's even a Quitters Friday, which is the second Friday in January, which is statistically the peak time most people quit. That would have been on January 9th. So if you're still hanging on there with your resolutions, good for you. But if you fell out and had a setback, just jump back on the wagon, stick with the plan. And speaking of plans, our plan here in this episode is to cover cardiovascular fitness. We're going to get into that in a minute, but I did want to call out, there was a ton that happened in the news, health and fitness news that we covered on Friday in our new weekly headlines show that we did this past Friday. Some big things happened this week. One of them was the government basically flipped the food pyramid literally upside down and kind of changed everything in terms of what we're recommending now. Healthy fats, higher protein consumption, limited processed sugar, avoiding ultra processed foods. So much good stuff changing around government guidance for food. So if you missed that episode, check it out. Some other good little kernels in there. And just as a reminder, every single Friday, we're doing our weekly health and fitness headlines. So check us out Friday, 15 minutes or less. We'll get you caught up on all the most important news around health and fitness that you need to know. But back to the plan here today, we're going to be talking about cardiovascular fitness. So many of us at the turn of a new year make New Year's resolutions around fat loss and overall health. Because it's January and so many people are trying to really find that sweet spot, like how much cardiovascular training, what types to do, how often, how to combine it with strength training. We thought we'd do a deep dive on that particular topic. So that's exactly what we're going to cover here today. And we're not going to be covering the kind that requires you to train like you're preparing for the CrossFit Games or an ultra marathon. This episode is for normal people, busy parents, working professionals like me, like you, who want to build a well-rounded cardio program that actually delivers results without burning you out or taking hours and hours each and every week. And we're talking about a well-rounded cardiovascular training program. So it's going to support a few things. So one of the things when I say well-rounded that I'm really talking about here is it's going to promote good body composition, right? It's going to also improve overall heart health and particularly boost something called VO2 max, which we're going to get into here in just a little bit. And it's basically going to set you up to look good, feel good, and live a longer, healthier life. So we're going to cut through the noise and just kind of give you some really practical guidance, something that you can stick to. Again, that's not going to burn you out and take hours of time invested. And I'm going to be very clear here up front. This episode is not for people training for endurance athletics, endurance events, but for the 95% of us who just want to be healthy and look good and keep up with our grandkids when we're 70, 80 years old, this episode is for you. So if that's you, let's jump into what I would call the perfect cardiovascular training program for normal people. Okay, again, so when I say a well-rounded cardiovascular training program, here's what I'm talking about. We want a program that really checks a few boxes, again, for most people. So number one, we're looking for a cardiovascular program that improves our overall heart health and longevity. So your cardiovascular system is literally what keeps you alive. A strong heart and healthy blood vessels mean lower risk of heart disease, stroke, metabolic diseases like type 2 diabetes. And the data is clear. A better cardiovascular fitness equals a longer life, period. Number two, we're looking for a cardiovascular training program that supports body composition. So translated, this helps you to lose fat and keep muscle. Cardio isn't just about burning calories during your workout. It's about building a metabolic engine that helps you stay lean over time. All right. And number three, it's going to improve performance. So health span is how long you can live an active, vibrant life. There's lifespan, which is literally how long did you live? Another term I really want my listeners to understand is health span, which again is how long you can live an active, healthy life. So a good cardiovascular training program should over time improve your health span. And performance means being able to do the things that you want to do in your life, right? As you age, if you're blessed to have grandkids, you're playing with your grandkids. You can go on a hike at any age. You can carry groceries and do the necessary things that you need to do to live independent in life. You can climb up flights of stairs. It's all about your functional capacity to live independent and injury-free. And when we're talking about measuring cardiovascular fitness, there are two key metrics that I think you need to know and understand. And one of them I already mentioned in the intro. So that first one is VO2 max. VO2 max is the maximum amount of oxygen your body can use during intense exercise. Think of it like the horsepower of your engines. Studies show, and this is why it's important, that VO2 max is hands down the strongest predictor of longevity, living longer, even stronger than traditional risk factors like cholesterol, blood pressure. I even interviewed a guest who's going to be coming on the show next week who mentioned that if you have a higher VO2 max, it's even a better indicator of lifespan than whether or not you smoke. So it's a really, really powerful indicator. So simply put, a higher VO2 max equals a lower risk of death from all causes. So VO2 max is key. And for context, if you're a 40-year-old man, a quote unquote good VO2 max is around 45 to 50. Don't worry about what the numbers mean, but that's 45 to 50. Elite would be 55 plus. And just to put my cards on the table, I'm at a 52 right now. And then one of my goals, and I covered it last week on the episode for my New Year's resolution, is to get up to 54, which is just under light. And I'll talk a little bit later about what I do. But 45 to 50 is a good VO2 max, and that's where we want to land. For women, good is around 40 to 45, and a light is 50. But here's the important part. Even moving right now, if you're below average, even moving from below average to average can add years to your life. And you do not have to be elite. You don't have to have the goal to ever be elite. If you can just get to good, you could be expanding your life, being here on earth years longer. So it's super important. I think I've made my point.
All right, let's be honest. You're probably not a professional athlete with a personal chef and unlimited recovery time. If you're like me, you're hitting the gym at 5 a.m. before work or squeezing in training between meetings, just trying to stay consistent while life keeps throwing you curveballs. That's exactly who Purist Nutrition was made for. Purist keeps it simple. NSF certified supplements with minimal, clean ingredients that actually taste good. No artificial ingredients and no proprietary blends where you're guessing what you're taking. Just premium actives like CreaPure, the purest creatine on the planet, whey isolate protein that is US sourced and easy on the stomach, and hydration that keeps you going without all the extra sugar or sodium. Whether you're a parent juggling kids and training or just someone who refuses to compromise on quality, Purist Nutrition fits your routine. Built for tomorrow, science-backed, tested and trusted by athletes, and most importantly, effective. Visit puristnutrition.com to see the full lineup of quality supplements. That's puristnutrition.com, because your nutrition should work as hard as you do.
The second one is body fat percentage, which is very straightforward. I think most people understand what this is. Cardiovascular training, especially when combined with strength training, helps you maintain a healthy body composition, which should be the goal for most of us. So for men, 10 to 20% body fat is healthy and athletic. Technically speaking, I think people should aim to be less than 20%, like somewhere around 15, 16 if you're training. For women, 18 to 28%. And cardio helps you stay in that range by improving your metabolic flexibility, which is your body's ability to switch between burning fat and carbs efficiently. Here's the most important thing that I need you to understand. Cardiovascular training, intentional training, should be layered on top of strength training for just about everybody. And let me say that again. Strength training is the foundation. Cardio is what you build on top of it. Why? Because strength training is what preserves and builds muscle mass, especially as you age, right? So after 30, again, I'm 41, you lose about 3 to 8% of your muscle mass per decade if you do not resistance train. And that muscle loss accelerates after you turn 60. And muscle is not just about looking good. It is metabolically active tissue that helps do a bunch of wonderful things for our body. Regulate blood sugar, support bone density, and keeps you functional. So if you are not already doing some form of resistance training 2, 3, 4 times a week, maybe 5, if you really love it and have the time, start there first. And there's been plenty of great episodes in our archives that you can go back if you want to learn how to kind of build your own strength training program. But start there, get that foundation solid, and then layer in the cardio training that we're about to talk about. All right. So with that baseline and those definitions established, let's get into the actual protocols. All right. So the protocols: how much cardio, what kind, and when. So want this to really kind of stick in your brain, the 80-20 rule. All right. I'll say it again, the 80-20 rule. And this is the framework that top researchers like Peter Attia, Andy Galpin, Rhonda Patrick from Found My Fitness, everyone agrees on this for the most part. 80% of your cardio should be what's called zone 2, and 20% should be high intensity work to boost that VO2 max that we already talked about. And this isn't arbitrary. Endurance athletes have been using this 80-20 split for decades because it works. Now, the 80-20 rule gives you the best of both worlds: a strong aerobic base from the zone 2 training and the cardiovascular punch or power from the high intensity training. And let's break down now each of those components. Again, kind of like really setting the table to get into the actual protocols. So zone 2, the aerobic base. What is zone 2 training when I say that? So zone 2 is steady state cardio performed at a conversational pace, meaning you're breathing harder than normal, your heart rate is elevated, but you can still hold a conversation. If someone asked you a question during your training, you could answer in full sentences without gasping. You might have to speak slower, time out your responses, but this is called the talk test. And it's a pretty darn good, accurate way as you're training, if you're not wearing a heart rate monitor, to know, am I in zone 2? And scientifically, zone 2 is defined as the highest level of exertion where your body is still primarily using fat for fuel and your lactate levels stay below 2 millimoles per liter. You're right on the edge before things get uncomfortable. And for most people, this is about 60 to 70% of your maximum heart rate. So a rough estimate for your maximum heart rate, because I get asked this question a lot, take the number 220 minus your age, and that's your max heart rate. So for me, that would be 179. So if you're 40, again, I'm 41, your max would be around 180, right? So zone 2 would be around 108 to 126 per that calculation. Now, depending on your level of fitness, that range could change, meaning if you train zone 2 a lot, you could see that the beats per minute could go up. But honestly, don't overthink the numbers. Just use the talk test. If you really want to get granular, you could have a heart rate monitor, but the talk test seems to work for most people, again, who are just normal average people who want to be fit. So that's zone 2. Now, what is happening in your body during zone 2 training? It's all about the mitochondria. So mitochondria, the little powerhouses in your cells, if you will, that produce energy. When you spend time training in zone 2, you're stimulating mitochondria biogenesis, which means you're literally growing more mitochondria, and making them more efficient. Why does that matter, you might ask? Because dysfunctional mitochondria are linked to almost every single chronic disease you can think of. Heart disease, diabetes, even Alzheimer's, cancer. Better mitochondria equals better metabolic health, better fat oxidation, and basically better everything. So zone 2 also improves something called lactate clearance. Now, lactate is not the enemy. It's actually a fuel your muscles can use. But if you can clear lactate efficiently, it means you can work harder for longer before fatigue sets in. So how much zone 2? Because this is all good. If you're listening to this, you're like, yes, I want to do zone 2. At least I hope that's what you're thinking. So how much zone 2 should you do? I respect Dr. Peter Attia greatly from The Drive. Great podcast. The gold standard from him, and that's Dr. Peter Attia, is 3 to 4 hours per week, broken into 4 45 to 60 minute sessions. And I know exactly what you're thinking. Like, ain't nobody got time for that. And I know that because I'm thinking that too when I hear it. I don't have 4 hours to get on a bike and ride. No, I got 3 little kids and jobs and stuff, but I get it. You don't have to get that much to get the benefit that we're talking about. So let's talk about the minimum effective dose of zone 2, 2 to 3 sessions of 30 to 45 minutes per week. So somewhere around minimum 90 minutes of intentional zone 2 training to 135 minutes total. And this will give you meaningful mitochondrial adaptations or changes and fat burning benefits. Again, this episode is for normal people that have some time to invest and we don't go overboard. So optimal, you want to get 3 to 4 sessions of 45 to 60 minutes per week. And that's where you get the best return, the best ROI on that investment in cardio. And we are going to get into how to layer those kind of optimal prescriptions of cardio over strength training in just a moment. What are the best modalities? What are the best actual ways to train for zone 2? So I am not a big cyclist, but a lot of people who don't want to put a lot of tread on their tires and wear down their bodies swear by cycling. And that can be indoor on a stationary bike or your own outdoor bike that's kind of mounted in a stationary way, or even outdoor cycling. This is Peter Attia's favorite. It's easy to maintain consistent power output and it's low impact on your joints, especially if you're doing strength training. So cycling is a good option if you like it. Rowing is another one. Think about like a traditional rower. It's great full body option if you do have access to a rower. Another one, and this is my absolute personal favorite, is incline walking on a treadmill. I tend to like to set the incline between 10 to 15% and walk somewhere between 3 and 4 miles per hour. Super accessible. There's lots of cheap quality treadmills you can have in your house, and almost every gym worth its salt will have some type of a treadmill. It's easy to pass the time because you don't have to worry about, like, when you're running outside, running into someone, getting hit by a car. You can actually, multitask if you really want. You can watch a movie, listen to a podcast. Like, I've even done work emails and stuff, but I like it because it's safe and you can really control your heart rate. So I'm kind of pitching this on you guys, but incline walking on a treadmill is great. Another one is swimming. If you're a competent swimmer, it's fantastic. It's just great for you. Low impact. I've probably swam exactly one time in my life for fitness. I just don't like it. I don't care. I don't care how great it is. I'm not going to do it. But if you got access to a pool and you like swimming, you could do that as well. So don't overlook that. So those are just 4 more common options.
Let's be honest, most of us don't have a private gym, a full-time trainer, or hours every day to lift. If you're like me, you don't even have time to commute to a local gym. You're training early in the morning or carving out 40 minutes between work, kids, and everything else competing for your time. And when fitness matters that much to your well-being and your health, you've got to have home fitness equipment that's as strong and reliable as you are. That is exactly why I use Rep Fitness. Rep is built for people who train with purpose, people who need high-quality, reliable equipment engineered for real strength. Designed right here in Colorado, USA, Rep Fitness provides racks, benches, bars, and plates that offer commercial-grade durability without commercial gym prices. Premium materials, smart engineering, and fair pricing. Whether you're outfitting your very first garage gym or upgrading your current setup to match where you want to go with your training, Rep makes gear that keeps up with your life and your goals. Visit repfitness.com to see their full lineup. Racks, benches, bars, plates, conditioning tools, and everything you need to build a home gym that works as hard as you do. That's repfitness.com. It's finally time to pursue your strength.
And then another, I think, really important thing, and almost kind of like a last thing here as we're building, is when should you do zone 2 relative to strength training? Now, ideally, you want to do zone 2 on a separate day from heavy strength training. But if you have to combine them, do strength first, then your zone 2 training afterwards. Why? Because you want to be fresh for your lifts. You don't want to sacrifice the quality of your strength training workout and lift less weights or less volume, because that's going to reduce some of your strength goals or your muscle gaining goals. So zone 2 won't interfere with strength gains the way that high intensity cardio can. Zone 2 is perfect for what is called active recovery days. You're moving, you're getting blood flow, but you're not beating yourself up mentally or physically. Because we are talking about body composition and health span, don't overlook the impact for both of those, which is daily movement. And it's, people forget this often, but zone 2 training does not replace daily movement. You shouldn't just focus on those 90 to 130 minutes of zone 2 and then just be stagnant and still the rest of the week. You should still be aiming for around 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day. Think of steps as your baseline movement activity and zone 2 as your structured cardio work, again, to get some of that fat loss goals, the mitochondrial changes that we talked about earlier on. So daily movement's huge. We covered some news 2 weeks ago. We're talking about blue zones. And there's places like Okinawa, Japan, for example, where those folks are sleeping less than the average American, but because of their daily movement and their whole food based diet, they're living years longer, decades longer than us. So daily movement, you just can't overlook that. So I just wanted to mention 7 to 10,000 steps per day should be your goal. And you can do that by having a couple 15-minute breaks each day to just kind of get up and walk around, outside, inside, whatever you have to do. So now let's talk about VO2 max training, right? Again, the 80-20 rule, 80% of your intentional cardio in that zone 2, 20% in the VO2 max training or the high intensity work. This is challenging. These workouts should be hard. Let's talk about what it is. So what is VO2 max training? This is high intensity interval training. Some call it HIIT, and it's designed to really push your cardiovascular system to the limits. You're training at 80 to 100% of your max heart rate or even your max perceived effort. And it's hard enough that you cannot hold a conversation. Don't talk to me. You're breathing heavily and you feel it. You're doing self-talk in your head. You're really pushing yourself to complete whatever your workout. This is where you improve your body's ability to take in, transport, and use oxygen at a maximal capacity. And the research is crystal clear on this. We already hit on it. Your VO2 max is one of the single best things you can do for longevity. Why, more specifically, does it matter so much? Here's a stat that'll blow your mind. Moving from the bottom 25% of VO2 max to the top 25% for your age group can reduce your risk of death by up to 50%. And that's even going from low to average, which can add 3 to 5 years to your life expectancy. And it's not even just living longer, it's living better. A high VO2 max means you can handle physical stress without getting wiped out. You can sprint to catch a flight. You can play a pickup game of basketball later in life. But why? What is it about this VO2 max as an indicator that translates to all of that good stuff? Well, what's happening in your body? VO2 max training stresses your cardiovascular system in a totally different way than zone 2. You are increasing your stroke volume, your heart's stroke volume, which is how much blood your heart can pump per beat. It's becoming more efficient. It's improving your capillary density, which is more blood vessels in your muscles. And it's training your muscles to extract oxygen more efficiently from your blood. You are also stimulating mitochondrial biogenesis, just like zone 2, but in a more intense, concentrated way. And very interestingly, HIIT has been shown to be a powerful stimulus for producing brain-derived nootropic factor. So that's BDNF, which is like miracle grow for your brain. So you're literally making yourself smarter while you suffer. And I would argue tougher, because it's mentally hard to sustain those near max efforts, which are just synonymous with HIIT training. How much should you do, right? Sounds terrible, sounds miserable, it's hard. How much VO2 max training should you do? We already talked about it, the 80-20 rule. If you're doing, let's just say 2 hours of zone 2 per week, you only need 20 to 30 minutes. It's not as much investment per week, but you get so much bang for the buck when you actually do it. And you can do it in 1 or 2 sessions. You can split it up. If 30 minutes of really, really tough work just does not sound appealing to you, you can break it up into 2 15-minute sessions. You do not need to do it every day, and you need to be very, very thoughtful on when you program it, because it is very taxing on your nervous system, and you do not want to burn out, and you don't want it to interfere with some of the benefits that come when you're resting or recovering. So what are some of the best protocols for VO2 max training or HIIT? How do you actually do it? So I've kind of done some research, and I'm going to give you 3 proven, well-respected option, and we'll rank from beginner friendly to this will really suck and be hard, right? So let's start with what some people consider to be the gold standard. It's called Norwegian 4x4. So this is specifically, it's 4x4, 4 minutes at 85 to 95% of your max heart rate, and then 3 minutes of active recovery. So that's an easy pace. And you repeat that 4 times. It should total about 30 minutes when you factor in a decent warm up and cool down. And this particular protocol, this Norwegian 4x4, has been used in research studies and shown to significantly improve VO2 max and even, get this, reverse signs of heart aging by up to 20 years. It is no joke. And you can do this on a bike, running. You can do it on a rower. You want to do it in something that's safe when you're really pushing yourself. And the key is maintaining that hard but controlled effort for 4 minutes. And it's not an all-out sprint. You need to be able to get through the all of the 4 repetitions in that 4x4. All right. So again, the Norwegian 4x4, that's number 1. The next one is pretty self-explanatory here. It's the 1 minute on, 1 minute off protocol. I like this a lot better than the 4x4, if I'm being honest. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's 1 minute at near maximal effort, which is 90 to 100% of your max heart rate, and then 1 minute easy recovery. And you repeat that 6 to 10 times. So if you're doing that math, it's a total of 12 to 20 minutes plus whatever your go-to warm up and cool down is. And this one is a bit more intense in that the intervals you're working harder, but they're not as long. The duration is just not as long, which just makes it, for me anyway, mentally easier to handle. And I do not want to burn out. So if it's really great on your short on time and it's not quite as mentally taxing. And then the next one I've actually never tried, but the research says it's pretty darn good. It's Dr. Huberman's go-to protocol. It's called the sugar cane. Now this is a 3 to 5 minute warm up followed by round 1, which is 2 minutes all out, just as far as you can go, as hard as you can push, and then 2 minutes of rest. Round 2, cover the same distance as round 1 as fast as possible, 2 minutes of rest. Round 3, all out effort for the same duration as round 2, trying to cover even more distance, cool down with 5 to 10 minutes, easy movement. And this one sounds brutal, but apparently it's very effective. You're essentially racing against yourself, which is cool if you like gamification and you want like a tangible goal to push yourself. And it's a powerful VO2 max stimuli. So Huberman recommends doing this once every 2 to 4 weeks as a benchmark test, just to try to see if you are progressing. Now, what are the best modalities for VO2 max work? It's really going to come down to your preference, what allows you to push really hard and what is the safest. But just to name a few, running or sprinting, very classic and effective, but very high impact on your body. I love sprinting, honestly, but if I had a brutal strength training week, it just doesn't feel good. And I really feel like I'm setting myself up for injury. But running and sprinting, absolutely. Cycling, stationary and outdoor, I would not recommend unless you have a really safe route doing, high intense cycling outdoors. You could do it stationary. It's lower impact and it's easy to control the intensity. Next one is rowing, which is, again, a full body, low impact. It's a great option. I get bored as hell, honestly, rowing for a long amount of time, but you could row if you prefer it. Stair climbing, hill sprints, absolutely fantastic for lower body power as well. So hill sprints, if you've got a good hill, decent distance that you can get a good sprint in, highly recommend it. And this one, man, if you've tried it, If you know, you know. Assault bike. Oh man. Or some call it a fan bike. Absolutely fantastic. Hard as hell. You can never master an assault bike, meaning like the fan just pushes back. It's rough, but I've got an assault bike. Man, I jump on that thing twice a month. It's the worst 10, 15 minutes of my freaking life for that month. But if you have access to one, torture device, it's the best possible. So again, running, sprinting, cycling, rowing, stair climbing, hill sprints, assault bike. There's so many ways you can do it. If you don't have any of those, shitty weather outside, you can just do burpees or something. But lots of different ways you can do it. And then lastly, for VO2 max training, when should you do it? In other words, what's the best time to program it into your week, especially if you're strength training and doing zone 2? So ideally, it's on a day when you are fresh mentally and physically. You're not doing this immediately after a heavy strength session. If you're combining it with strength training, I would do it after your lifts and probably on like an upper body day. Better yet, but just save it for a dedicated cardio day, in my opinion. So you should finish these sessions feeling challenged. If you are not breathing hard, and if you're not saying to yourself, man, that sucked, you're just not doing it right. All right, folks, I think we covered a lot. We're going to put it all together because I think we threw a lot of terms at you, a lot of protocols, a lot of recommendations. How do you pull it all together? What does a sample weekly fitness schedule look like that includes both strength training and the cardiovascular training that we discussed, zone 2 and HIIT? So let's talk about what that could look like. So I'm going to give you two scenarios. One, if you are doing strength training 3 times a week, and it's very common for folks that do strength training 3 times a week to do full body training. And it's also very common for people to separate those strength training sessions by one day in between. So in other words, that could look like strength training on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Some people will do upper, lower, full body, repeat. Whatever you're doing, option 1 here is if you're strength training 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? This is perfect for someone who wants to keep training simple and efficient. You're hitting your whole body 3 times per week, or at least every muscle group twice per week, which is common knowledge these days, backed by science. That's a good idea. And this is how you layer cardio in, both zone 2 and HIIT, over that particular split, right? So day 1, full body strength training. Tuesday could be zone 2 cardio, and that could be 45 minutes of it, whatever you want to choose, bike, incline walk, you name it. Wednesday, you're doing full body strength training again. And then afterwards, you could do more zone 2 cardio after your strength training. So you could pick up another 20 minutes, right? So you could be up to over an hour of zone 2 by then. Thursday, dedicated zone 2 cardio, 45 minutes. Friday, you're doing strength training again. And then Saturday, zone 2 cardio. You could do 30 minutes, 45 minutes easy, and then cap it off with your VO2 max training. So you could pick your Norwegian 4x4. You could do your 1 minute on, 1 minute off, your sugar cane. Now that's a longer cardio day. But if you structure it that way, then you could rest on Sunday, but try to do some movement. And in that scenario, you're getting 2+ hours of zone 2. So you're surpassing your minimum protocols. And depending how long your VO2 max session is, if you did 30 minutes, you're getting that box checked as well. Now, if you didn't want to do the 30 minutes of VO2 max training on that Saturday, you could break it up, take 15 minutes of it, put it somewhere else in the week in a smart way, and you could break it up. But that's one such way to do it, and you're hitting all your bases. I like the combo day on Saturday. It's really efficient. You're already warmed up from the zone 2, but that's just one such way. So let's look at another way. Common for people to do strength training 4 times a week. Let's use a very common split, as they say, which is upper lower. And a lot of people that do 4 days of strength training will do, starting with Monday, upper, lower on Tuesday, cardio on Wednesday, back to upper on Thursday, and lower on Friday, right? So upper, lower cardio, upper, lower cardio. So again, Monday, you could do upper body strength training and do 30 minutes of zone 2. Tuesday, you can just do your lower body strength training. Wednesday, you can come back around and do an extended zone 2 cardio session. Thursday, you're back at it again with your upper body strength training. Friday, you could do lower body strength training and then add 30 minutes of zone 2. So you could be up to around an hour and a half to 2 hours of zone 2 by the time the weekend comes around. And then you guessed it, Saturday, you could do a little more zone 2 cardio if you're trying to hit those minimum protocols, and then do your VO2 max training afterwards. And again, you can pick your poison. You could do one on, one off, but you could do something on Saturday, and then Sunday you would rest or do walk, shoot the basketball around, whatever you want to do. So, and even in that scenario, you can do 4 days of strength training, but because you're doing 2 sessions where you're doing zone 2 after your strength training, you could still get your minimum zone 2 protocols and your VO2 max on top of your strength training. So that's 2 different options if you're trying to layer in all of these protocols on top of your strength training. All right, folks, so let's wrap this up. Building a smart cardiovascular training program does not require you to live in a gym or train like an athlete. It requires you to be smart and strategic and rely on science. So here's the summary of the episode. Strength training is your foundation. Do not skip it. Ideally, you're training 3 to 4 times per week minimum. Follow the 80-20 rule as it relates to cardio. So 80% of your time investment is in zone 2, 20% is in VO2 max work. Zone 2, you're looking for 2 to 4 sessions of around 30 to 60 minutes per week to be kind of in that like optimal range. You want to stay in that conversational pace. Use the talk test to make sure you're not training too hard or too light. And this really builds your aerobic base. VO2 max, you're looking for 1 to 2 sessions of around 20 to 30 minutes per week. This should be hard intervals. This really boosts your cardiovascular ceiling. Daily movement still matters. Even if you're doing intentional cardio training, aim for 7,000 to 10,000 steps per day. Track your progress if you have the budget to do so, and just be consistent. The best program is the one that you actually stick to. So get out there, build that aerobic base, chase that VO2 max. And remember, you do not have to be perfect. You do not have to be elite. It's about being better than you were yesterday and last week and last month, because you could literally be adding years on to the end of your life. So thank you, folks. If you found this episode helpful, do me a favor, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Leave a rating and a review if you've got the time wherever you're listening. And do not forget to follow Stronger Weekly so you don't miss out on our next episode. As a reminder, we've got deep dives on Tuesday, which features guest interviews and topic breakdowns like we did here today. And then you can check with us on Fridays to do our weekly health and fitness headlines, where we go out and curate all the most important news that happened this week so you can stay connected, stay informed, and make adjustments in your life to grow stronger week by week. So thank you for tuning in. Get out there, get moving, and we will see you next week. Stay strong, folks.